everybody, welcome back to Life Under Deborah's Palm, where today we're going to continue. I think we're on part 3 of this series, Who is Jesus?, where we're going to talk about some of what Jesus said about himself. Thank you for watching, and if you like this channel, please like, subscribe, share, leave comments. It really helps the channel out, and I so appreciate those of you who do tune in and watch. So what we're going to talk about today is what's often called the 7 I am statements. We're not going to do all 7. I believe I'm going to do the first 4. In the book of John, Jesus makes 7 statements saying, I am. I am the bread of life. I am the gate. I am the light. I am the good shepherd. And that's what we're going to take a look at. And the first one I'm going to read to you is Jesus as the bread of life. And it comes out of John 6:35. And it says, Then Jesus declared, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. It's coming up to the time of the Feast of Passover, and that meant the roads headed to Jerusalem were busy. The Jewish people were required to come to Jerusalem 3 times a year to present their offering. This was one of them, and Jesus was teaching along the Sea of Galilee, which is north of Jerusalem, and he fed 5,000 people with a few loaves of bread and some fish. And they wanted to see a miraculous sign, and they started telling them how their forefathers ate manna when they were with Moses. Manna was a cake kind of thing, and if you read about it, it says it was sweet like honey, and I guess it's probably a bit like bread, maybe. I don't know, I wasn't there. But that happened during Moses' time, and God every single day provided manna on the ground. They got up in the morning, they went out, and they collected it. And so that's kind of what they're talking to Jesus about. And Jesus kind of basically rebukes them and says, Moses didn't give you the bread, God did. God was the one who provided the manna. In other words, God provided daily bread. And Jesus is making the point that he is the bread, and you can get spiritual bread from him every day. A couple interesting things to note if you didn't know this. Bethlehem, where Jesus was born. The name Bethlehem actually means house of bread. Beth or Biet in Hebrew means house. Lechem means bread. He was born at the house of bread. And although we say he was born in a stable because, you know, we all know there was no room at the inn, he was placed in a manger. And again, this is kind of some historical stuff, or culturally historical stuff, I guess, that we don't understand. What was a manger? A manger was this block that they made for the animals. They were in a stable. The manger is the feeding trough. They put the hay or the food in it. He was placed in a food bin, really, if you want to look at it that way. Not only that, but the word manger that we get translated comes out of, I believe, Latin, and it means to eat. So there's kind of this whole thing right from his birth that is very symbolic of what his life is going to be. The last thing I'm going to talk about, sort of quickly, goes back to the Old Testament. The Old Testament, on the Sabbath, there was something called the bread of presence that was brought into the holy place. The holy place, not to be confused with the most holy place. The 12 loaves were symbolic of Israel, and they were brought in each Sabbath, and the only people that were allowed to eat them were the priests, but they were brought before God. The Hebrew word for the bread of presence was lechem panim, which meant the bread of faces is the literal translation. So this bread was literally brought before the face of God. The face of God is represented through Jesus And, he says it, who's ever seen me has seen the Father. The Apostle Paul says that the glory of God was seen in the face of Christ. Kind of an interesting parallel. One of those things you might want to meditate on, think about, and ponder. And read. Go read it for yourself. I will put the links here or on my blog. I'm going to try and remember to do that. But otherwise, blog. Life Under Deborah's Palm. The second thing, John 8:12, Jesus says, it says, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. He's talking about spiritual light, not physical light, but let's consider the properties of physical light. What is the point of light? To see. We do not have eyes that can see in the pitch black. So the question is, can darkness overcome the light? John says in the first chapter, the darkness could not overcome it, meaning Jesus, but physical light. Can darkness overcome physical light? If it's daylight, can you make your house pitch black? You'd have to be in an inner room building with no windows in order to do that. And likewise, it's dark. Let's say it's nighttime and your power goes out. What's the first thing we do? If you're my age, you muddle your way to your junk drawer where you kind of forage around looking for maybe a candle or a flashlight. Good luck finding matches for the candle to light it. Now, if you're younger than me and you're thinking about it, you just have Siri turn on your flashlight on your phone. You're looking for light so you can find your way to your bedroom or your kitchen or your bathroom or wherever you need to go without getting injured, falling downstairs, stubbing toes, and things of that nature. The point is, it lights the path. Jesus is a spiritual light that lights the path if you choose to go in that direction. I'm sure you probably all heard the saying, somebody somewhere told the story and said, I was in a really dark place. They're not talking physical darkness. They're talking emotional darkness, or I don't know if I want to say mental darkness. They just were having a really hard time. That's the darkness that Jesus comes to get people out of. He is the light. He is the one that will lead you out of that type of darkness. If you make that choice, which is totally yours. God's a God of choice. The last thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to combine the last two, which is where Jesus says he is the gate and the good shepherd. Gate sometimes is translated door, but I have a translation that says gate, and I'm going to read this to you out of John. It is John 10:7-13. Therefore Jesus said again, verily, very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers. But the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks and the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. Jesus is telling them a parable. And they didn't quite get it. So he goes on to explain it. But I'm going to explain a couple things that we need to know in order to better understand this. If I say to you, we're going to put the sheep in a pen. What type of pen do you think of? Barbed wire with maybe 2 or 3 gates, that are doors that swing open. Maybe they're wooden, same thing with gates that swing open. You just lock the gate, walk away, the sheep are there. That's not what a pen looked like in Jesus' time. In Jesus' time, the pens were not made of barbed wire or wood. They were made of stone, whether they were bricked up, piled up, whatever, but they were about 3 feet high. One gate. There was only one, and the gate was only an opening. There was no door on it. There was no latch. It was just a narrow opening, and they would put the sheep in it, and a hired hand would stand guard over that gate, that opening that was doorless, if that makes sense, like in the way we would think of it. So something could get in, something could come over the wall, something could come through the narrow gate, or a sheep could slip out. That's why there was a hired hand that Jesus is talking about. Let's consider sheep, because this whole thing is metaphoric anyways. The sheep are us. The sheep are people. Sheep had shepherds. The shepherd's job was to drive the sheep around to the pasture, put them in and out of the pen, make sure they were safe, make sure the wolves weren't getting them, you know, that was their point. Sheep literally are very smart animals, like real sheep are very smart. I never thought they were very smart, but apparently they're quite smart. The only thing smarter than them in the animal world is like a pig or something. Sheep are also very wary, and they flock. So if one sheep takes off running, they all go running. Even if the dumbest sheep in the flock is the one that took off, they'll all follow him. That's just how that works. But they're not dumb. They have the ability to recognize faces, and they can actually come when they're called. They know the shepherd, and I was reading this in the context of unbiblical stuff. People who literally herd sheep, and they said they'll come right to the gates. They'll come when you call them. You know, I guess you kind of train them like a dog or something. I don't know, but they have that ability. In order to survive, they need to get out. They need to go out in the nice green pasture in the sunshine and not be worried about being devoured. And Jesus is saying he's the gate. So we're all in a pen. And if we want to get out and go into green pastures and get great food, we've got to go through the gate that is Jesus. Okay, he is the only way out into that pasture where you will have life and life. This translation says life to the fullest. A lot of translations say life abundantly. That's what his purpose is. It doesn't mean you will never have a hardship or never have an illness or never have a problem. It just trust me, life doesn't go that way. It didn't go that way for Jesus or the disciples. It doesn't necessarily go that way for you. But it gives us the chance to thrive in a spiritual way out of the darkness with a good shepherd that oversees us and has the answers and the light for the path and the spiritual food and understanding so that we can get to where we need to go. We have a plan, a purpose, and a destiny. And we always have to keep that in mind, that God has got that for us. It's our choice as to whether or not we're going to step into it and walk it out. And on that note, I'm going to end this. I'm going to do the next 3 on the next one, and I hope you have a blessed day.